My name is Emily Carter, and I used to believe that love, real, deep love, was built on trust, on faith, on the kind of bond that makes you feel safe when the world outside is falling apart. But I was wrong. So very wrong. When I first met Daniel, he seemed like every girl's dream. Charming, confident, and impossibly handsome. He had that kind of smile that could melt away your anger in a heartbeat. We met at a friend's engagement party, and he didn't take his eyes off me the whole evening. "You look like trouble," he'd said, grinning as he handed me a glass of wine. "And you look like someone who can't resist trouble," I'd teased back. It started as a spark. It turned into a fire. Within months, we were inseparable. Late night drives, morning coffee dates, stolen kisses in parking lots. I thought I'd found the one. He worked in real estate, smart, successful, always dressed in tailored suits that screamed control. I was an interior designer, and he used to say, "We make the perfect team. You build beauty, I sell it." When he proposed, it wasn't grand. Just the two of us, on a balcony overlooking the city lights. "Emily, you're my peace in this chaotic world," he whispered as he slid the ring onto my finger. I said yes without hesitation. For the first few months of our marriage, everything felt like a fairy tale. He was attentive, loving, generous. I'd wake up to breakfast in bed and little notes that said, "You make my world brighter." But then, things started to change. It began with the small things, the phone calls he'd take in another room, the sudden late night meetings, the smell of perfume that wasn't mine clinging faintly to his clothes. When I'd ask, "Daniel, where were you so late?" he'd brush me off with a half smile. "Work, babe. You know how demanding clients can be." And I'd believe him, because love makes you blind. Then came Lucas, Daniel's best friend, a man I'd only heard about until one day Daniel brought him home for dinner. This is Lucas," he said, his arm casually draped around my waist. "He just got back from London. We've been friends since college." Lucas was different from Daniel, less polished, more rugged. His smile didn't feel rehearsed. His eyes carried stories. There was something almost intense about him. Throughout dinner, I caught him studying me, not in a flirtatious way, but almost curious, as if he was trying to read me. That night, after Lucas left, Daniel seemed unusually quiet. He poured himself another drink, even though he'd had plenty already. "What's wrong?" I asked softly. He looked up, his jaw tight. "Just tired." Lucas reminded me of some old memories. But I could tell something had shifted. The next few weeks were strange. Daniel became distant, colder. He'd barely talk to me, and when he did, it was with irritation. "Daniel, what's happening to us?" I asked one evening, my voice trembling. He set his drink down with a sharp clink. "Nothing's happening, Emily. Stop being dramatic." But I could feel it. The love, the warmth, it was dying. Then one Friday night, he came home unusually late, his tie loosened, his eyes glassy from alcohol. "Lucas is hosting a party tomorrow," he said, slumping onto the couch. "You'll come with me." I hesitated. "Do I have to?" "You know I hate his crowd." "Don't argue," he snapped. "Just dress up. Something elegant." His tone was cold, commanding. And for the first time, I felt a flicker of fear. The next evening, I put on a long black dress, simple, yet striking. Daniel didn't compliment me like he used to. He just gave a brief nod. Lucas's house was massive, modern, full of strangers laughing too loudly and drinking too much. Daniel stayed close at first, then gradually drifted away, leaving me surrounded by unfamiliar faces. I found Lucas near the bar. He smiled warmly when he saw me. "Emily, right? Daniel's wife?" "Yes," I said, awkwardly tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. He poured me a drink. "You seem uncomfortable." I gave a faint smile. "Crowds aren't really my thing." He nodded. "Daniel used to say you were the calm to his chaos." I see what he meant. Something in his tone was genuine, almost protective. But before I could respond, Daniel appeared beside us, his arm snaking tightly around my waist. "Enjoying yourself, honey?" he asked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Daniel, Good." He cut me off, glancing at Lucas with a smirk. "You two should get to know each other better." I frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" He leaned in close to my ear, whispering, "Don't worry. I'll make sure you're comfortable tonight." His words sent a chill down my spine. Hours passed. The party thinned out. I couldn't find Daniel anywhere. Lucas offered to drive me home. But just as we were about to leave, Daniel reappeared, his eyes dark, his smile cruel. "Where do you think you're going?" he said quietly. "Home," I answered, confused. "You disappeared." He took a step closer. "You'll stay. Lucas still wants to show you something." Lucas looked shocked. "Daniel, what are you?" "Relax," Daniel said, his tone laced with something sinister. "You two always had chemistry. I can see it. Maybe you'll prove me right tonight." I froze. My stomach dropped. "Daniel, that's not funny." But he wasn't joking. His eyes were cold, detached, like he was watching a scene he'd scripted. I turned to Lucas, who looked horrified. "I think you should leave Emily," he said firmly. But Daniel blocked the doorway, smirking. "Go on, sweetheart. Don't act innocent now." It was the first time I truly saw the monster behind the man I married. My voice shook. "Daniel, you're drunk. Stop this." He leaned close enough for me to smell the whiskey on his breath. "Oh, I'm just getting started." And that's when I realized this wasn't about love anymore. It was about power, about humiliation. But he had no idea what I was capable of. Because if Daniel wanted a game, I was about to change the rules. End of part 1. As I looked into Daniel's cold, calculating eyes, a strange calm washed over me. He thought he could break me that night, but he had just handed me the weapon I'd used to destroy him. I stood there, frozen, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear anything else. Daniel's smirk carved into my mind, a look of satisfaction, control, and something darker. He wanted to humiliate me, in front of his best friend, in front of the man he trusted. Lucas was the first to break the silence. "Daniel," he said sharply, "you're drunk, and whatever game you're trying to play, stop it now." Daniel laughed, slow and bitter. "Game? Oh, come on, Lucas. Don't act like you haven't been eyeing her since the day you met her. I saw how you looked at her at dinner." Lucas's jaw tightened. "That's enough." But Daniel didn't stop. He stepped closer, his voice venomous. "You know what's funny? She pretends to be this perfect wife. Sweet, loyal. But deep down, women like her crave attention. She's just waiting for someone to show her what she's missing." Something inside me snapped. "Stop it, Daniel," I yelled, tears stinging my eyes. "You're humiliating me for your own sick pleasure." He leaned in, his face inches from mine, his voice low. "That's the point, sweetheart." Lucas stepped between us. "You're crossing a line, man. Take a breath before you do something you'll regret." Daniel's smirk faded slightly, his eyes narrowing. "Regret? No, I think she's the one who's about to regret pretending she's better than everyone else." And then, as if proving his madness, he threw his drink against the wall and stormed out of the room, leaving a stunned silence behind. I stood there trembling. Lucas turned to me, his eyes full of concern. "Emily, I'm so sorry you had to hear that. He's lost it." I shook my head, feeling the hot sting of tears. "I don't even recognize him anymore. He wasn't like this before. I don't understand what happened." Lucas handed me a glass of water and guided me to sit down. "I think Daniel's been struggling with something. He's been drinking a lot lately, and he's paranoid. About money, business, even people. He's not himself." "Paranoid?" I asked, confused. Lucas sighed. "He's convinced someone's out to ruin him. He thinks his investors are turning against him. I tried to talk to him, but he won't listen. And now, apparently, he's decided to take it out on you." I stared into the glass, the reflection of my broken expression staring back. "He's been coming home late. I thought maybe he was seeing someone." Lucas looked away, hesitating. "Emily, I don't know what he's mixed up in. But if I were you, I'd be careful. He's not thinking straight." His words sent a shiver down my spine. When Daniel finally came home that night, the air was heavy with silence. He didn't speak, didn't apologize, just walked past me as if I didn't exist. The next morning, I woke to find him already dressed, tying his tie in the mirror. "Where are you going?" I asked softly. He didn't look at me. "Work." "Daniel, can we talk about last night?" He turned, his eyes cold. "What's there to talk about? You embarrassed yourself." My mouth dropped open. "I embarrassed myself? You tried to. Enough, he snapped, his voice echoing through the room. You've become pathetic, Emily. Clinging, emotional. It's exhausting. And just like that, he grabbed his jacket and walked out. The sound of the door slamming behind him felt like a final blow. Days passed. He didn't come home. No calls. No texts. Just silence. I tried to focus on work, but my hands trembled too much to draw. I barely ate, barely slept. My husband, the man who once promised to protect me, had turned into a stranger. Then, one evening, Lucas showed up at my door. He looked worried. Emily, are you okay? I nodded weakly, trying to be. He hesitated before speaking. Daniel called me earlier. He said some things that didn't make sense. He mentioned making you pay. My heart stopped. Making me pay? For what? I don't know, Lucas said carefully. But he's unraveling. I think he's been lying to a lot of people, and it's catching up to him. He's blaming you for his problems. I felt a rush of fear and anger. I've done nothing but love him. Everything I've sacrificed, my career, my friends, my peace, and he blames me? Lucas nodded sympathetically. He's not in his right mind. You need to be careful. I looked him dead in the eyes. No, Lucas. He needs to be careful, because I've had enough. That night, I opened Daniel's office drawer, the one he'd told me never to touch. Inside were papers, contracts, bank statements, and emails that didn't make sense. He was transferring money into offshore accounts under fake names. My stomach twisted. He wasn't just lying to me, he was hiding something much bigger. And then I saw it, a photo of Daniel with another woman. Her name was written on the back, Clara West. My hands shook as I stared at her face, a tall, blonde woman laughing in his arms. The date on the photo was from 2 weeks ago. Tears blurred my vision, but behind them, something else began to rise. Rage. I wasn't just betrayed, I was played. The next morning, Daniel finally came home. I was waiting for him at the kitchen table, his secret spread out before me like evidence in a trial. He froze when he saw me. What's this? You tell me, I said coldly. Who's Clara West? And why are you moving money under fake names? His face hardened. You went through my things? I went through the lies you built around me, I snapped. What are you into, Daniel? Who are you really? He smirked, crossing his arms. You think you're clever, huh? You have no idea what you've just done. I rose to my feet, trembling with fury. Then enlighten me. He took a step closer, his tone dropping to a whisper. You should have stayed out of it, Emily. Now you've made yourself a liability. For a moment, I saw it. The darkness in his eyes, the danger. The man I married was gone, replaced by something cruel and calculating. But I didn't flinch, because now I had something he didn't expect. Proof. And a plan. End of part 2. As Daniel walked away with that same twisted smirk, I whispered under my breath. You think I'm your weakness, Daniel? You have no idea. I'm about to become your biggest threat. When I opened Lucas's glove compartment that night, my hands were steady. Maybe because my numbness had finally hardened into anger, or maybe because the person I loved had spent so long convincing me I was imagining things that I'd stopped trusting my instincts. Either way, I wasn't going to be fooled again. There were receipts, hotel names, dates that matched the party, and a chain of short notes folded tightly like contraband. I unfolded the first one and my stomach dropped. Event staged. Emily will be humiliated. Camera placement confirmed. Payout after. Signed with Daniel's initials. My breath hitched. I read it twice, 3 times, as if words could rearrange themselves into something gentler if I stared hard enough. But there it was. His handwriting, his shorthand, the kind of cold instruction you give when you want to hurt deliberately. I kept digging. My fingers found a thin envelope with photos, images of the party, taken from angles I hadn't noticed at the time. In some of them, I looked like a laughing guest. In others, I looked stunned in the doorway. In one ugly frame, someone had captured Daniel's face mid-smirk, watching me as if he were an audience member, not my husband. Between the photos was a text printout from Lucas to Daniel. She's in. Will do my part when you give the signal. And beneath that, a reply. Perfect. Remember what we discussed. Don't leave loose ends. The paper slipped from my hands. My world tilted. Everything crashed down on me, the staged comments, the way Daniel had lingered, the way Lucas had watched, the comfort Daniel had promised me that night. It wasn't a drunken impulse. It was a script. They'd written me into a scene they planned to perform so the whole world would believe I was the star of my own downfall. I felt bile rise in my throat. The two men who'd called themselves my protector and my friend had conspired to make me their joke. When Lucas knocked on my door that evening, I almost didn't answer. My hands still smelled like paper and betrayal. He stood there like an accused man, pale, eyes bloodshot, hair messy as if he'd been pacing all day. "Emily," he said, voice small. Can we talk?" I stared at him for a long moment, then stepped aside. He entered like a ghost. I led him to the kitchen table and pushed the envelope toward him without a word. His face went white. He swallowed and ran a hand over his face as if to wipe away what he'd seen. "How did you?" he began. "Explain," I said, my voice flat. He sat down heavily, and for the first time he looked young. No longer Daniel's polished counterpart, but a man carrying the weight of a decision that now crushed him. "It started months ago," he said finally. "Daniel called me, said he needed help with a situation. He hinted at investors, at being under pressure. He asked me to get close to you. Just be a friend," he said. Then he said he'd pay me. He said it would be harmless, that he only needed footage of you being vulnerable at a party to prove his point to people who were bad for his business. He explained it like it was a business arrangement. I thought he meant to stage some light drama. "I swear to you, Emily, I didn't know he'd go this far." "You didn't know he'd humiliate me?" I asked, the words sharp and brittle. "I didn't," Lucas cut off. "I didn't know he'd planned the photo angles. I didn't know about the offshore transfers or Clara. When he brought up it being a little test of loyalty, I just thought, God, I don't know what I thought. I felt awful, but we'd been friends forever. I told him I wouldn't do anything that would hurt you. I told him that. He convinced me he needed a scapegoat to save everything. Daniel can be very persuasive." "You were in on it," I said. "You signed the receipts. Your text says you'd do your part." Lucas bowed his head. "I did. I'm so sorry. I was weak. I let him use me." Anger ripped through me so hot I couldn't think. "You used me," I spat. "You let my husband weaponize your presence in my life. You stood there and watched him plan my ruin." He looked up, and something like grief broke across his face. I tried to stop him. He laughed, said it was the only way to get the partners to notice him again. He promised me money to pay off debts I had. I wanted out. I wanted to tell you then, but he threatened Clara. He said if I exposed him, he'd ruin her. He broke, the confession spilling like water. "She has nothing to do with us, Emily. Daniel paid a woman, Clara, to pose. He paid people to take the right shots. He money laundered through those offshore accounts I found in his drawer." I felt lightheaded. The pieces aligned into a pattern so monstrous I could barely look at him. "So all along," I whispered, "it wasn't loyalty. It was a plan to erase me." Lucas nodded. He wanted control. He wanted the sympathy of partners and investors, to appear as the betrayed husband with a scandalous wife so he could use it to manipulate people into investing, into bailing him out. "It's twisted." His voice turned to ice. "He planned to make you leave, and then he'd sell the house, take the business. Everything would be his clean slate." Betrayal stacked upon betrayal. My legs trembled and I sat down hard. Rage now mingled with a cold, surgical clarity. If they thought they could script my erasure, then their playbook just became evidence. "Why tell me this now?" I asked. "Because I can't live with it," Lucas said, his knuckles white on the table. "I followed him for years because I trusted him. But after seeing what he would do to you, to us, I want out. And I want him accountable." A new resolve hardened inside me. I had proof, not just of the staged humiliation, but of the financial manipulations and the fake actress Clara. I had Lucas's partial confession and his willingness to help unravel Daniel if he was sincere. We made a plan that night, careful, legal, and ruthless. Lucas would give me access to everything he had. Messages, payment proofs, even recordings. I'd scan and timestamp every document, make copies, and send them to a lawyer and a journalist contact I'd quietly befriended from my design network. If Daniel wanted to play dirty, I'd expose him in a way he couldn't clean up with charm or money. We coordinated steps, passwords, backdoor emails, every precaution we could think of to make our evidence bulletproof. With each item Lucas handed over, I felt pieces of myself return. Anger transformed into action. Just before midnight, as Lucas packed the last folder into his bag, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face drained. "Who is it?" I asked. He hid the screen with his thumb, then met my eyes. "It's Daniel. He's asking where I am." He sounds calm. "Too calm." "That's not good," I said. A cold sensation slid down my spine. Lucas's hand shook as he handed me one final file, a photo of Daniel and Clara together in an expensive restaurant, a hand slipping a small envelope across the table. The date was recent. My phone buzzed then, a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging, Emily. You don't know what you're touching." My heartbeat spiked. Someone was watching. Daniel wasn't going to let this go quietly. End of part 3. I typed a single reply with shaking fingers. "Try me," and pressed send just as footsteps sounded at the front door. The moment those footsteps echoed down the hallway, my blood turned cold. Lucas and I exchanged a glance. The clock on the wall ticked like a bomb. "Did you lock the door?" I whispered. Lucas nodded slowly, his hand hovering near the folder of documents. "Yeah, but if it's him it won't matter." The doorknob twisted once, twice, then a loud knock followed. "Emily," Daniel's voice called out, too calm, too collected. "Open up." That tone, it wasn't the drunk, erratic Daniel from before. It was something worse. Controlled. Dangerous. Lucas motioned for me to stay quiet. My heart hammered so hard I could barely breathe. "Emily," Daniel said again, this time softer. "I know you're in there. We need to talk. You and me. Alone." Lucas mouthed, "Don't." But I stepped forward anyway. Fear had ruled me long enough. If this was going to end, it would end with me facing him, face to face. I opened the door. Daniel stood there, his suit immaculate, his tie perfectly knotted. Not a trace of the chaos I'd seen days ago. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Good evening," he said smoothly. "Mind if I come in?" I folded my arms. "That depends. Are you here to apologize or destroy me?" His eyes flickered, just for a second. Always so dramatic. "May I?" Before I could stop him, he stepped past me into the room. His gaze landed on Lucas instantly. "Ah," he said, his tone sharp as glass. "Of course. My best friend. My loyal partner. What a surprise." Lucas stood tall, but I could see the guilt etched across his face. "Daniel, listen." "No," Daniel interrupted, turning to me. "I think you should listen, sweetheart. You've been snooping where you don't belong." He walked around the living room slowly, like a predator circling its prey. "You found my files, didn't you? You think you know what's going on. Offshore accounts, photos, Clara. But tell me, Emily, did you ever stop to think that maybe I let you find them?" My breath caught. "What are you talking about?" He smiled faintly. "You think you're clever, but I'm always 3 steps ahead. Those accounts? They were decoys. Clara, she's not who you think she is." I shook my head, trying to keep my composure. "You're lying." "Am I?" he asked, leaning closer. "You've seen just enough to make you act, but not enough to understand what's real. You've set yourself up, Emily. You've turned yourself into the perfect scapegoat." Lucas stepped forward. "Enough, Daniel. Stop trying to twist this." Daniel's jaw tightened. "You should have stayed loyal, Lucas." Then his smile returned, calm and poisonous. "Did she tell you she transferred money yesterday? Into an unmarked account? Because I've got proof." My head snapped up. "What are you talking about?" "I didn't." Daniel reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder. Inside were screenshots, emails, bank transfers, all appearing to be from my name. "You forged this," I said through gritted teeth. "Forgery? Or evidence of your little embezzlement?" He smirked. "The police won't care which. They'll just see that you stole from me and the company." Lucas slammed his hand on the table. "You planted it. I know you did." Daniel's voice dropped to a chilling whisper. "Be very careful, Lucas. I still own you." The air in the room grew tense. Every word was a match over gasoline. I stood there, staring at the fake documents, fury surging through every vein. "You think you can bury me with lies?" I said. "I don't need to bury you." Daniel said coldly. You'll destroy yourself trying to fight me. That was the moment I decided. No more defense. No more running. You're right, I said softly. You are smarter than me. He blinked, surprised. I took a slow step closer. You think you've planned every move. But tell me something, Daniel. Why do you look nervous? He laughed. Nervous? Hardly. I tilted my head. Because you don't know what I have. His smile faltered. What are you talking about? Lucas caught on immediately. Tell him, Emily. I turned my phone screen toward Daniel. It was still recording. Audio, video, everything. His entire monologue about framing me, calling me a scapegoat, and mocking me for finding his decoys. It was all there. His face drained of color. You see, I said, voice steady. You've spent so long controlling people that you forgot one thing: liars always talk too much. Lucas exhaled sharply, tension breaking for a split second. But Daniel recovered fast. He chuckled, low and dark. You think a recording changes anything? You think people will believe you? A desperate wife with a motive to ruin her husband? Maybe not just me, I said, gesturing toward Lucas. You're not the only one with secrets to lose. Lucas is done covering for you. And we've sent everything, documents, screenshots, and that recording, to a lawyer already. His eyes widened. You what? Lucas nodded firmly. An encrypted folder. Scheduled email. If anything happens to Emily, or me, it all goes public. For the first time, Daniel's mask cracked. He looked between us, calculating, trying to regain control. Fine, he said quietly, stepping back. You win this round. But then his lips curved into that same cruel smile. Just remember, every victory has consequences. He turned and walked out, the door slamming behind him. Lucas let out a long breath, running a hand through his hair. He's rattled, he said, but he's not done. I nodded. My body shook, not from fear, but from adrenaline. No, he's not. He's too proud to walk away. Lucas looked at me. What are you going to do? I stared at the folder of false documents Daniel had brought. Finish this, I said, completely. That night, sleep refused to come. Every shadow looked like him. Every sound felt like a threat. Around 3 a.m., I got up, opened my laptop, and began drafting a letter to Daniel's business partners, his investors, and my lawyer. It was a full confession, not of guilt, but of truth. Every lie, every manipulation, every receipt was laid bare. I attached the evidence, set the emails to auto-send in 24 hours, and saved backups to multiple drives. Then, I opened a new message. To Daniel. You wanted to humiliate me. You wanted control. But you forget. Some people are more dangerous when they've got nothing left to lose. I hit send. And at that exact moment, my phone buzzed again. A new text. From an unknown number. Nice try, Emily. But you don't know who you're dealing with. Then another photo appeared, a live shot of me, standing by the window. Someone was outside, watching. End of part 4. I dropped my phone, my blood running cold, as a voice whispered from the darkness outside. Round 2, sweetheart. The voice outside froze me where I stood. Every hair on my body stood upright as I turned toward the window. The curtains swayed slightly in the cold night breeze, but I could see the faint silhouette of someone standing just beyond the glass. Lucas, I hissed, backing away. He's here. Lucas came running from the next room, his eyes wide, scanning the darkness outside. Stay behind me. We flipped the light switch off, plunging the room into shadows. Outside, the silhouette moved again, slow, deliberate, as if enjoying our fear. And then came the faint sound of gravel crunching under heavy shoes. He's circling the house, Lucas muttered. We have to call the police. I grabbed my phone and dialed, but before the operator could answer, the line went dead. Static, nothing else. Lucas cursed under his breath. He cut the power line. My pulse raced. How could he do that so fast? He planned this, Lucas said grimly. He's trying to scare you into silence. I clenched my fists. Then he underestimated me. We hid in the hallway, whispering. Lucas handed me a small flash drive. Everything's on here, he said. If something happens, take it and run. But I shook my head. No, we end this tonight. A noise came from the kitchen, the sound of glass breaking. Lucas tensed. He's inside. I gripped the nearest object I could find, a metal lamp base, and motioned for Lucas to move toward the back. Through the dim light from the moon, I saw a shadow glide into the living room. Daniel. His expensive shoes, his tailored coat, and that sick, confident smile that made my stomach churn. He looked completely unbothered. "You really thought you could win," he said softly, his voice echoing off the walls. "Get out of my house, Daniel," I said, keeping my voice low but steady. "Your house?" he scoffed. "You really don't get it, do you? Everything you touch belongs to me. This house. The business. Even your name will mean nothing when I'm done." Lucas stepped out from behind the counter, holding a knife. "Not tonight, Daniel." Daniel turned his head slightly, smirking. "You're still playing the loyal knight? How sweet. Too bad you're disposable." Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a gun. Lucas froze. "Daniel, don't be stupid." "Oh, I'm not stupid," Daniel said. "I'm clean. No fingerprints on the files. No trace of the forged accounts leading back to me. You too? You're the perfect fall guys." My breath came shallow. "You've lost it." "No," he said, eyes wild now. "I've won." He aimed the gun at Lucas. I didn't think. I acted. Grabbing the lamp base, I swung with every ounce of strength I had. The metal cracked against Daniel's wrist, sending the gun flying. It skidded across the floor. "Run!" I shouted. Lucas dove for the gun. Daniel tackled him, and the two crashed into the glass coffee table, shards scattering everywhere. I screamed, trying to pull Daniel off him. The fight was brutal, raw. Daniel threw punches like a man possessed, screaming incoherently about betrayal, money, and control. Lucas managed to kick him back long enough for me to grab the gun. "Stop!" I yelled, pointing it straight at Daniel. He froze, panting, a trickle of blood running down his cheek. "You won't shoot me," he hissed. "You're too soft." I tightened my grip. "You took everything from me. My trust. My peace. My life." He took a slow step forward, smirking again. "Then finish it, sweetheart. Pull the trigger. Be the monster you think I am." I hesitated, my hands trembling. The weight of everything pressed down on me, the years of manipulation, the humiliation, the lies. But then I realized something. Killing him would give him exactly what he wanted. A story where I became the villain. "No," I said, lowering the gun slightly. "You don't deserve my rage. You deserve ruin." Daniel's face twisted. "What are you?" Before he could finish, red and blue lights flashed through the window. Sirens wailed outside. His smirk faltered. "I sent everything to the police," I said calmly. "The files. The recordings. Even this conversation." Lucas coughed from the floor, a smile breaking through the pain. "I made sure of it." Daniel turned pale. You wouldn't." "Oh, I did," I said. "Your time's up." The front door burst open as officers swarmed in. Daniel spun toward the window, trying to bolt, but Lucas tripped him, sending him crashing into the floor. The officers pinned him down. Even then, Daniel didn't stop talking. "You think this changes anything? I'll find a way out. I always do." But this time, I saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. As they dragged him away, I stood silently, tears slipping down my face, not of sorrow, but release. Hours later, when the sun began to rise, I sat on the porch wrapped in a blanket. The night's chaos replayed in fragments. The gun, the glass, the flashing lights. Lucas came out, a bandage on his arm. "They've taken him into custody," he said quietly. "They found everything on his laptop and in his office. It's over." I nodded slowly. "No, Lucas. It's just beginning." He frowned. "What do you mean?" I looked out toward the sunrise. I spent years trying to please him, to love him enough to make him kind again. But now I finally understand. People like Daniel don't change. They only destroy. He sat beside me. "So what will you do now?" I smiled faintly. "Rebuild. On my own terms." He nodded. "You deserve that." I turned to him. "Thank you for coming clean." Lucas looked down, guilt flickering across his face. "I'll live with what I did, but I'll spend the rest of my life making it right." I stood, watching the dawn paint the sky gold and crimson. The nightmare was over, but I'd never be the same woman again. And maybe that was the point. Weeks later, the headlines told the rest of the story. Corporate fraud mastermind exposed by wife he tried to frame. Daniel's empire crumbled. His investors sued. His name was ruined. As for me, I started over. I launched my own design firm, small but honest. My scars became my strength. Every line I drew, every client I met, reminded me that I'd survived the unthinkable, and I'd done it without becoming what he wanted me to be. Sometimes late at night, I still hear echoes of that last moment, his voice, his arrogance. But I don't flinch anymore, because I remember how I ended it. Not with blood, with truth. And that, I realized, was the twist he never saw coming.